Good afternoon. This is issue 3, 2025. So today, I thought I'd just sit and talk with you all. As a potential Mashiach. I want to get into a little bit of more of who I think I am to myself and all others. Excuse me. Got a little burp going. and maybe get into some other things about life in general, here I am in Michigan, Michiana, the place of the Great Lake. It's cold outside. Snow filled up to the about a foot on my patio grass out there. That's from a lot of the drifting of the snow. So anyway, first things first. In 3 years, I follow the eclipses as Mashiach. I keep a close eye on them. I try to figure out what Hashem is trying to say to me through them. But he definitely wants me to take notice of these things and plan accordingly, or to give the people a timeline from them. So I was born on a new moon. It was December 25th, first day of Ramadan, 7th day of Hanukkah, 1965. It was a new moon. And that was my first mitzvah, I would say. If you're born on a first new moon, that's considered you're taking care of your first mitzvah. So, anyway, the moons, the eclipses, all that stuff. I do keep an eye on them. Calendars are very important. The way we're going with calendars is very important. I think even the solar calendar that we use today will be out of date. Give it a couple decades. I think we will start figuring out a new calendar. But anyway, talking about the moons. In 3 years, there will be an eclipse that will be over Jerusalem. And I got dates wrong. I think in 2025 or 125, issue 125, I spoke about the eclipse in 2099. And I gave the date of August 12th, but I was wrong. The date isn't August 12th. It's September 14th. And it will be on Rosh Hashanah. So I'm kind of like saying this is going to be a time that the total fulfillment of everything will be made. There will be not even any discussions anymore about who Mashiach is, where he has come from, Do we even bother looking any longer? That's a big one, because I think that's it. The Mashiach, the search for the Mashiach, the search for the essence of Mashiach, the search of which is the search of the essence of the truth of the gods, will be completed by 2099 Rosh Hashanah. And on that day, there will be an eclipse. There will be an eclipse that goes through Chicago, Illinois. And on that day, a child will be born under the eclipse. And it will be the return of Mashiach, and who Mashiach is now. But on this return, this child will grow into someone that will be aware of this prophecy, like other children that will be born on that day in the vicinity. They will be aware of this prophecy, and that there is a child born in the area of where the Crescent Sun is. It will not be in total, the area will not be totally covered by the eclipse. It'll be a sliver, like the crescent moon. But it will be the Crescent Sun. And it will mark a time to where everybody will be at peace with just letting it be, and the search is over. And whoever that child is. And he's not to come to redeem a people, not even to remind them that they need to repent. He's just come to live a life now, to bring out the end the age of the Masonic ages in his own way, in his own life. And there will be a time of renewal before all people. An acknowledgement, a great acknowledgement that, we're all in this together. And it's true that we got to live this way. And by that time, who knows what AI will be, who knows what high tech will be. But people will still be having babies. That ain't going to go away. People are still going to be making love. People are still going to be trying to figure out, what life is all about. And there will be that child born. And they will know the day, they will know the time, they will know the place. But they won't know the child. They'll have to guess. There'll be a few. But they're going to have to leave it alone. And even the child is to acknowledge that his purpose is as equal as all others. In fulfilling this prophecy, this last prophecy. But his purpose is the same also, is to show kindness to others, is to be kind, is to live that out. And he doesn't have to travel anywhere. Or she. Not going to say it's a he. Could be a she. It's going to be a he. It's going to be a he. I mean, I always try to bring it in like, okay, it's going to be a she. I just don't think it. I think this individual is going to be a he because he's always been a he. And I think this person that's always been a he will always be a he. In this realm we call infinity, he will always have that energy of the male essence. Well, anyway, I would like to also just briefly remind you right now, because we are talking about the eclipse 3 years from now. I know I brought you to the eclipse of 2099, but the eclipse in 3 years, that's the Crescent Sun over Jerusalem. It's the sign of the bride of the Messiah, the Mashiach, the anointed one, the Christ. They're the same thing. Just don't kid yourself. The Mashiach, anointed one. Christ, anointed one. They're both the same thing. The same one. The same person. So anytime if you hear me talk and read Christ, it's the same essence, the same person, the same vibration, the same feel. So in 3 years, yes, there is going to be that crescent sun over Jerusalem. And just take a moment right now to hit the subscribe button for this channel and hit the like for this video. Just take a second. But it will help me out because I could grow the channel a little bit. And maybe even get a little funding from it if I reach a certain number of people that I can buy my ticket. Just as I tried to get a ticket one time in Cincinnati for Yom Kippur, and they turned me away. I think it was Yom Kippur. I think it was it was either that or the Rosh. I wasn't too much into the Jewish faith at the time. Just kind of something brought me to this synagogue one day, and I went up to the synagogue, and I'm sure it was Yom Kippur. And the guy asked me for a ticket. The guy at the door. They were all dressed much better than me, so I thought he would, he kind of noticed, like, hey, what's this guy doing here? I was just coming out of City Hall in Cincinnati. And the synagogue was right across the street. And so I walked up to just go in. I was like, I've never been in a synagogue before. This is my time. I never saw people going into a synagogue. Never. So I thought, this is my time. I'll be able to finally, see what the Jewish religion is like. This was back in 2007. I have not done my Dance of Blue Kachina yet, because I was delivering mail at the time in the firehouse. It was after I had my heart attack on September 14th, 2007. It was on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. Also on that day, it was the second day of Ramadan, and it was the day of the cross, celebrated by Christians or the Catholic Church. That was the faith that I grew in, was the Catholic Church. 12 to 13 children. But anyway, I hate to get too far off, but I think it's important when I talk to try to give you the whole spiel. I know some of you might be like, you give too much information all the time, Pete, but sometimes I just think it's important. As I begin this series, once we get rolling, I don't think I got to repeat anymore. There's enough there. There's enough info that it will hold or stick. So anyway, just hit the like. I need you to hit that like button, and I need you to subscribe. That would be really nice of you if you could do that for me, because I do want to turn this into a little bit of change in my pocket. Help me out, because it would help me to get to Jerusalem in 3 years for the August 2nd, 2027 eclipse that will be fully eclipsed in Medina, I think it is, or Mecca, be fully eclipsed in Mecca, and it will be crescent over Jerusalem. So in regards to the bride, I am going to go to Jerusalem instead of Mecca. Mecca will be fully covered. There'll be no moon seen until the moon leashes off the sun. Will they then see this spectacular crescent sun? But the crescent sun will hold during full eclipse in Mecca over Jerusalem that day. And I'm being called to that. I'm being called to be there. And how I get there, I don't know. Even if I don't make it there, I'm going to at least try. I want to stay somewhere, but if it's all booked, like I keep on thinking, why are you even saying anything, Peter? People are going to listen to you, and they're going to all book the traveling, and they're going to have all the apartments and motels are all going to be booked. Everybody's going to want to see this crescent sun that you talk about, and that are not going to be in Mecca, but people are going to flock to Jerusalem during this time. I know it. I want to have my ticket. I want to have that ticket, just like I had that ticket, tried to get that ticket into, and it might not happen. I walked up to the synagogue and they said, "Where's your ticket?" Day of Mercy, right? I think that's the Day of Mercy, Yom Kippur. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't have my ticket then. They turned me away. I just said, I'd never had that happen to me before. Go up to a church or a place of worship during their time of service, and they asked me for a ticket. That never happened to me before. So I was kind of a little surprised by it. But so yes, that will happen on in 3 years. And I don't know what will happen that day. Maybe, the arrival of Mashiach is imminent. Maybe I will be able to witness that in my own way. Or however Hashem wants me to see that, to be a witness to that. As I follow the eclipses, and I've done this for quite some time, I've always had a pull, like, what is the deeper meaning to this? Why is this being brought to my attention in such a big way that I have to acknowledge it in some way or another? And so, but that's a big one. That's a big one. And the reason why I'm turning my sights now, and this has all like really come up with me, is the last 2 solar eclipses. And the first solar eclipse, was last year, was it last year, the 24th? Yeah, so it would be the one in 2023, the eclipse of the moon, or the eclipse of the sun in the Four Corners area of the United States. On that eclipse, I was sent, everything had been brought together. There was one family member out of my whole family that I had never met. She had just appeared. And it was a brother's child that he never knew he had. And through DeAne and, Ancestry.com, she had contacted the family through me, for all people. I still don't understand why she chose me. But she contacted me to kind of like showcase, or not showcase, but to um, bring to my family that there's this girl of our own lineage that we did not know we had. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I have a child that I had like that myself that I did not know until she was 17 years old. So this happening to my brother was kind of like, all right, I've been there, This is how you got to go about it. You just go ahead and tackle it and say, okay, you're my daughter, I love you. How do we make this work? It's not the child's fault. So I had to, on this quest, it was all coming together. She lived in Colorado, close to where the eclipse would be, that I would see her. And the eclipse that I would attend at that time, it was my return as Pahana to the Hopi and returning the stone. So was my whole purpose, I mean, I did the dance of Blue Kachina, September 14th. Now, keep that date in your mind, September 14th. There's 3 September 14ths in my life that are very big. And the first September 14th was in 2007. I had a massive heart attack, died. And on that day, it was the second day of Rosh Hashanah. It was the second day of Ramadan, and it was the day of the cross to the Christian, or to the Catholic religion. So on that day, they brought me back to life. I woke up, I said, we all shut the... I'm trying to sleep. And they said, well, you ain't sleeping. You were dead. And I said, well, keep me alive, Little did I know, I just kind of like, oh, wow, too bad I didn't see heaven and Jesus and all that stuff. That's why I would have been in like Flint. I would have had the books out and everything. I would have been like, boom, I'm doing my tour. But it was a good sleep. I mean, there was nothing really to say. I was kind of disappointed, But I mean, in a way, it woke me up and it made me not afraid of death. Like, Hashem wanted me to feel that veil. He wanted me to touch the bottom of that dark well on that day. Because when I went in there, and I went in there and I was having my chest pains, and the doctor came back to me and he said, there ain't nothing wrong with you. It's probably your esophagus. And then when he turned around, I flatlined. I mean, everything was, my blood pressure was good, and my blood levels were all coming back normal. So he was just, my heart rate was okay. So he was like, there ain't nothing wrong. It's got to be your esophagus. We'll throw you on the treadmill in, an hour or something. He walked out of the room and beep. I flatlined. Died. So they worked on me for a few minutes. Got my heart going again. They shocked me back. When they shocked me back, I mean, you're not just still laying there. I was a firefighter. I brought people back to life before. I've done intubations, sticking the tube down the throat and getting air going there. And boom, I've been there. I've been there with people, but never did I see them like totally pop out of it like I did. When they put those shockers on me, man, I popped out of it. And I saw everybody yelling and screaming above me. And it was September 14th, 2007. Second day of Rosh Hashanah. Little did I know it at the time. I had no idea that the trumpets were blowing, looking for that. And on the second day, they say they blow to bring the Mashiach. Well, on the second day, there it was. And it was also the second day of Ramadan and the day of the cross, September 14th, 2007. I went back home to my apartment and just was like, boy, what was that about? You know, I knew I couldn't be a firefighter anymore, so I had to start gearing up for that, which my firehouse was right across the street. I drove myself into the house, and I didn't want those guys working on me. You know, I didn't want to, I'm just, you know, it is what it is. You got your pride, you know. I mean, that's the firehouse I worked at. I didn't want them coming in, so I drove myself in. But anyway, that's what happened, and that was September 14th, 2007. But then the dreams came. The dreams. I had these very prolific dreams. Showing me, you know, that I was a shaman. Like, you're a shaman. You got to understand your role in all this. You got to come to accept this. And it started telling me that I must do the dance of a life bringer. I looked it up, life bringer. What is this life bringer? But everything pointed it back to the Hopi Indian. And Kachina means life bringer. So blue Kachina, blue started coming in my dreams. And then my dreams started telling me, you know, I had to do this dance a year to the day of my death. Like, I had to do this dance. Like, the pull was great. Like, no matter what, you gotta follow these dreams, you know? So I did. You know, I whatever the dreams told me to wear that day, however they told me that I had to bring with me, that it was going to be on September 14th to the day 2008, which was not a Jewish holiday. Could have been a day of Ramadan. I don't know. So was Day of the Cross. And maybe it was, there was no more Ramadan on that day. But on that day, though, there was a holiday for the trunked, Nashi is his name, the elephant, the elephant of Hinduism. It was still the Day of the Cross, but anyway, yeah, there was no, Rosh Hashanah was not on that day. I could probably look up what day it was, but anyway, I know it wasn't Rosh Hashanah or any Jewish special holiday, or it wasn't during any Ramadan day. I'm pretty sure. Could be, though. You know, it's, you know, how those moon calendars work. So I went and did the dream that day, or dance that day, and when I finished, in my dream, they wanted me to play a song, El Condor Pasa. So I did. I played the song, El Condor Pasa, after I did this Dance of Blue Kachina, which had all of these drummers that wrapped around me. Everything came together on its own. You know, I didn't seek these people out. You know, they just came. They showed. I do have a picture, and I did write about it. And it's called Dance of Blue Kachina. That's my sister Rose there. She's about 20 years older to the day. I mean, she's my oldest sister. And that's me, and I got this cottonwood mask on that the dream told me. I had this neck wrap that the dream told me. I had this shirt with the sake, and right there was a hand, and his name was Hollywood, and he put his hand on it when I made it. And then here's the bear paw I had to put on my pant leg, and I had a turtle shield in my hand, covered. But all that came from my dream on what to do. So I followed that dream that day, and that's what I did. My sisters were there. I had 3 sisters there, Rose, Sally, and Mary Lou. Mary Lou was a very Catholic woman. I don't think she was like digging any of it, because it was like kind of one of those bazaars that day, where vendors come, and you know, it's kind of hippie-ish I guess. And I'm not a hippie, just I'm not a Nazi, I'm not a hippie, I don't title myself in that way. Just a man walking a spiritual journey. I'm having a relationship with the gods, I mean, that's it. So, but, a lot of people participate, and there's a lot of different type of spiritualities that go to these bazaars. But anyway, so my sister found a place in the church, and she set up during the whole thing. A little small feather just floated down through the window and landed next to her. And then my other sisters, they watched. And one sister, my sister Rose, she danced with me briefly, which surprised me, but she wanted in on that dance for some reason. She felt like she belonged in it. So after I got done playing that song El Condor Pasa, the winds started picking up. And it went from gradual to very strong, very quick, like very quickly. And before you knew it, like the tents and the vendors' tents all started getting blown around, and just got real crazy. I mean, one tent even like blew and hit some woman. The fire department, was called. But it blew for hours and hours and hours and hours. And it knocked out all the power in Cincinnati. And later that evening, all the markets in the world crashed. Now, if you're like me, okay, you die a year beforehand, and you have all these crazy-ass dreams about, all right, this is who you are, Mr. Shaman. This is what I want you to do, and you're following these dreams to this day. And that happens. Well, what would you think? What would you think? How would that impact you? I mean, for me, it was an acknowledgement of, okay, I'm a shaman. I get it. All right, I acknowledge this 100%. I will never say that I'm not a shaman. Ever, never, ever, not again. I'm a shaman. I was born a shaman. I was born a shaman. I was born on December 25th, first day of Ramadan, under the star, Ikea Siki. I call it Jacob Star, 1965. Ikea Siki, 1965. There's two Ikea Sikis, so you might get a night in 1966, just like there were two Ramadans in 1965, so you might be getting confused if you ever look this stuff up, that the later Ramadan I'm born on in December. But anyway, I'm a shaman. I was born a shaman. I was born, number 12. I'm a wounded healer. I'm a shaman. Mashiach never entered my mind. I grew up with Jesus. Got a little black on my nose. But anyway, so, like the Messiah is the Messiah. He came and saved us all, That's how I grew up. Though I look differently at this now, I think that Jesus was a character that lived 2,000 years ago, though. I don't think we need to be kidding ourselves around about that one. I think that there was somebody that was on the stage within Israel that was trying to tell people that there's a better way to do things. And for some reason, he was killed. He was slaughtered. Do I believe in a resurrection? I believe something happened at that grave. I'm alive in that. Something happened there. Something happened at that grave. something. It could have been light, could have been heavy, but something happened with a lot of light. There was a light that emanated from this character that shone so bright that whoever he was saying he was at that time, and I think that's where, there might be some, people that wanted to put in their versions of who he was instead of who he is, that's what happened. And I think he was more of, a man, just a regular man. Could I be the rebirth of him? I could be. Anybody could be. I think, I'm one for reincarnation. Son of Joseph, I mean, there's talk about a Messiah figure that's son of Joseph, and I think people can kind of fit him in there. I have this son of David coming next, which would mean that the man would need a father that is David, just like the son of, if you're going to equate the both. Son of Joseph, son of David. And then there's the third one, anyway, it's the son of ashes, which I'll get to later. Maybe I'm that one. But maybe there's so anyway, where am I going with this? I was talking about September 14th, 2008, when all the storms came through, the markets crashed. So that had to make me think about what it's all about. So I've always followed, and then to follow the eclipse to Bahana, because I did the dance of Blue Kachina, and I had this rock from the Hopi. I carried it for the longest time with me, and brought it wherever I went, because I did a lot of traveling after I got out of the fire department, and I could not, they retired me out. So I had a little pension, and I could kind of like travel around. I was recently divorced. Was it that year? No, it was the year before, right after my heart attack. Broad came in with the papers. It's like, you better sign these. So I just did, got it over with. It was good, whatever. But anyway, the next year was the day that I danced the dance of Blue Kachina, and then I kind of tailed around America for 10 years. I visited a lot of American tribes, did sweat lodges, kind of trying to find my shaman, stayed at some very prominent places of the Native American peoples in America. But I learned a lot, and I ended up, in the end, in Hopi Land in 2003, after visiting the last lost family member in our family. I ended up in that area during the time to make it to this eclipse, and then return as Bahana with the stone to the Hopi. So anyway, I went to, it was October 14th, which was my father's birthday. The day of the eclipse was going to be on 2023. And so that was my ex-wife's mother was also born this day, which was significant to me because it was going to be their 100th birthday together, those two. So I looked at it as, well, our marriage didn't work out. Maybe they're getting married up there. I don't know. So I kind of like performed a nice little ceremony to them at St. John's River, at the crossings of the Four Corners area during the eclipse. It was a very nice ceremony. It was me, and then this other man showed up, and he was pretty interesting. He just wanted to hang out. So I had my ceremony all prepared to go for this marriage, for this happy birthday, 100th happy birthday ceremony under this eclipse, in which I would be given instruction, or I also put the prayers in for the grandparents' granddaughter, who I see is the bride of Mashiach, or the bride of Christ, the anointed one, where I'm to give her away, because I did not know where I was going to give her away, in the form of her ashes. And it was my daughter, and she had died or passed on in 2020 on May 17th. So she was born on Purim in 1988. That's a holiday that will always be, they say. They say the holiday will never, all the other holidays will end. But Purim, the day that the bride of Christ, the bride of Mashiach, was born, will never end. And it will one day be celebrated as a day in which the woman was born. The woman in who I saw was, born already anointed. I mean, she was born already anointed. She came out covered in oil. At the time, I did not know what that meant, and it was on Purim. It was March 4th, 1988. And what a day, March 4th. Move forward, keep moving forward. I didn't know this about her at the time. I just looked at it as a baby. I was kind of scared, I mean, here she was, totally in like a white film, a white oily film. So already anointed in her mother's royal oil, untouched by men. So here I was. She died of cancer in 2020, fought it diligently like a warrior, put herself into to science, gave herself to science to fight this disease. It was like fighting an enemy. Still is. I still want to eradicate that cancer. Maybe we will one day, and it's a worldwide thing. We're all in trouble with that cancer. Jew, Gazans, Syrians, Iranians, the whole world. Who's getting touched by that now? Who's it killing indiscriminately? It's worse than any man ever was. Any religious leader could not do as much harm as that cancer has done to our own human race, the pain and suffering. Well, anyway, the bride of Christ, the bride of the Messiah, the Mashiach, she had succumbed to this after a great battle, 2-year battle. So I wanted to find out where I never gave her away for her wedding because I wouldn't. She was married one time and divorced. She married, it was weird because she married a guy with the last name of, what is it? Kaiser. And it means king in German. But anyway, I mean, that wasn't the reason why I did not give her away. I mean, he was a nice young man. I'm not going to take away from who this guy was, and I know she had some sort of love for him. I gave her my blessing to marry, but she was upset that I would not give her away. And the reason being, I said that, who am I? Who am I to give you away? I mean, that means I have some sort of ownership over you, in which I do not. And I was trying to tell her, like, you're making this choice. You're an adult woman, and you're free to make this choice. But you'll always be my daughter. You'll always be mine. I will always love you, just as much as Mr. Kaiser, Mr. King will. Maybe even not more. And so, I never gave her away. And here I was, asking my ancestors to help me find a place to give their granddaughter away. I was asking the grandparents, and I think that's okay, to ask the grandparents to help you, wherever they are. So anyway, after doing that, I traveled the next day to Hopi land with my rock. Also with me, I had many items that I had, or not many, but a few items that I had from the Hopi before. I had some Hopi items. Not much, but that rock was the big one. And I went back and I returned the rock to a man named Gary the Spare. I just remember his name, Gary. He worked at the hamburger place. He had a hamburger. He was a cook. I couldn't find the chief of the Bear Clan because that's who I wanted to bring it to, and it was hard to get direction to him. So many items I returned to the Hopi. The only item I keep now is just the handle of a fan, spirit fan. But I brought that. I brought the rock back, and I also had this bracelet, and it was a swastika. It was an old one. It was like an old bracelet with a swastika on it. And so I brought. They used the swastika with the Hopi to very much. It's part of their symbolism. I look at the swastika as, what the Nazis did is they really, they took this symbol, which is the Big Dipper, always points at the North Star. The North Star is always above our head. It goes up and down, and kind of perfect, but we always see that North Star. It goes up, it hits the horizon, it goes back up. It's always due north. And then around the North Star, spinning, because our world is spinning, 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 ours is the handle of the Blue Dipper, and it goes in all directions of that North Star, pointing inward to the North Star. So in 4 directions, it makes the symbol of a swastika, a broken cross. And this is something that has been around for a long, long time. All our ancestors, were directed to that North Star. We all were, when you were lost, you found that North Star by the handles of that Big Dipper. And then what you do is you take the last 2 stars of the cup, and you flip them over 5 times, and you hit the North Star, and that's how you get there. And so, but when you didn't have a compass back in the day or all that stuff, we relied on that North Star and that Big Dipper that surrounded it. I'm sure you can find it in the majority of cultures everywhere, throughout the world, in antiquity. So I went to the Hopi. I brought back, or on my way in. Now this is another thing. I go back in as Pahana, and I'm taking the Hopi road in from the west, which I thought I wasn't coming in, or not from the west, from the east. because there were different roads, and I thought I was going to be coming in from the south because I had taken a wrong turn, but I made this wrong turn, but I was still coming in from the east, the road that goes into the Hopi village from the east. So on my way into this Hopi village, I'm coming in about a mile into the reservation, to the Hopi reservation. A truck is coming out of, so it's going east, and I'm going west. And it's coming towards me, and I'm going towards it, but all of a sudden it flips and it rolls, just like boom, boom, boom. And there were 4 men in there, and it knocked them all out. It threw them all over the roads. They were in bad shape. So I pull up. I'm a firefighter. I have EMT experience. My first act of Pahana on the Hopi reservation is to mend these men that had just, for some reason, the truck has flipped numerous times on the road, no other vehicle involved, and thrown these 4 men about. And the truck was sitting sideways on one of its doors. So some people had already gotten out also and started tending to the people, and I got out myself and looking around, and there was Benjamin, there was, I think, what was it, Angelo, but they were all biblical names. There were 4 of them. Benjamin, who else was there? Angelo, I think it was like Jediah, something like that. And they were all, dark-skinned, either Mexican, Hopi, I never really knew. But anyway, a lot of people then assembled, and we got them triaged, and the air care came in, and the truck was laying on its side. But I looked at this, and I recognized it. I recognized it for what it was. I could see it, and that truck being on its side reminded me of the Hopi stone. And there was there were these lines that are on the Hopi stone. And it just and then there's circles on the Hopi stone that reminded me of the wheels of this truck on its side. And, just the way it was divided looked like a truck now, kind of like came into being. But on top of that truck are 4 bodies. Or on top of that Hopi stone with the line are 4 bodies. And, people say, well, that means the wars, or people keep on, but that reminded me of the 4 men thrown from the truck. Like everything was there. Everything was there, like to say the Hopi stone has now been fulfilled by you, Pahana. Now you gotta choose. And there's 2 choices that Pahana must make when he returns. The one choice is to remain with the land, to go back to when, you waited for the seasons, and everything relies on the great, just the weather. And it's not the easiest life, but it's there. I had a choice. I had the choice to go back to that. And then there's the second choice. And on top of that prophecy, the lines of the prophecy stone, is this jagged line that goes out into whatever. It's the unknown. And I had to make the choice between them 2. So I was invited to this dance the next day. So I returned. After I returned all to the Hopi, I returned after that really spoke to me. I was invited to this dance. And I returned to the dance. They made me wait and wait and wait. I kept on asking, when are they coming out? When are the people coming out to dance? Oh, no, they'll be out. I always running late. You know, I didn't want to. I hadn't slept much, tired. I was waiting for this dance, waiting for the dance. And all of a sudden I said, I'm done waiting for the dance. It was like I was saying, I'm done waiting for the past to save me. Or thinking that I could teach these people anything that they don't already know, or that they're not already a part of. You know, I see them all walking around with their cell phone. They're already modern. They're already on the track. They've already decided to go into the unknown. I didn't have to. You know, a lot of those buildings on the mesas are just, you know, winter homes now to some people. They don't want to live there. You know, it's rough life. It's not easy living on that mesa. And so I just got up and walked away. That was the last eclipse. That was the eclipse, not the last eclipse, but the eclipse in October. In between then and the giving away of the bride, which would be the eclipse of 2024, April 8th, you know, the prayers that I wanted were to find out, where do I bring the ashes of the bride to give away? And this is, I would like to also say, though, that during this time on the Hopi land, it was 1 week into, it was October 14th. So we were a week into when the land of Israel was attacked by Amalek or Gaza or Hamas. They're the same thing. And those people just were kidnapped and burnt and killed, and just innocent people in a most ruthless, very personal manner. And we were a week into that. So I started to gaze, like, what's this all about? What is this? What is this whole thing going on over in Israel all about? And so things started coming to me about where to pour these ashes, to bring the ashes. And one thing that came to me was it must be a covered bridge, that I had to find the covered bridge along the path of the eclipse. Somewhere within that range, there had to be where I could see the eclipse. It had to be under that eclipse. It had to be where I would see the crescent sun. I had to see the crescent of the sun. So I looked all over for a bridge. And I thought, it's got to be, and I'm looking for a pretty good one, Where's that covered bridge that I can find? Well, turned out there's only one where the bride of Christ had passed away. The bride of Mashiach, the anointed one. And it was in Hamilton County, Ohio. And it was a place called Jediah Hill. And it was a place where the Reaper was invented. Now this is where spirits are telling me, this is where you need to go. It's right there. very obvious where we want you to be. Jediah, like what does Jediah mean? Jediah means God knows or God understands. So it really kind of like spoke to me because the bride, my daughter, she was all about, it's going to take knowledge to defeat this disease that we have. It's going to take a lot of knowledge. So that, working in there, it's like, yeah, there's a nice stream there with a beautiful little waterfall. I thought, it's got to work. On that day, April 8th, I'll make it there. So during this course too, and I would just like to mention this just as a, like make it think a little bit. But there was like this great uprising or like great, I would just like to say a great swell of Job, like Job, the guy swallowed by the whale. And this eclipse was going over Nvidias, like these 7-8 Nvidias or whatever throughout the country. And there were a lot of other towns that was going over. And people could get kind of silly with that stuff. But the Job and Nvidia, I kind of had to look at that one, like it had to do with an eclipse. And Job, it was in the belly of the water. A lot of water, a lot of eclipse. There was anyway, there was a Nvidia, Ohio, that you could take straight down through a line, straight through that bridge. Boom. And then there was a Nvidia in Indiana that if you took that line, it all hit right at that water of that bridge and where the bride was to be given away, to where my daughter, where I had to give away my daughter. For all. Was the bride of Christ to be given away there. The bride of Mashiach, the anointed one. They both mean the anointed one. They're both the same people. So, on the day of giving her away, April 8th, I waited. But there was one other thing going on at this time. And that was, here I am with the ashes of the bride. And at that time, too, what really caught my attention to everything coming together, like, okay, Pete, here it is, the ashes of the red heifer. They want to kill the red heifer in Jerusalem so they can cleanse everything and build their new temple in Jerusalem. But they need those ashes of the red heifer. And there was one time I was in Texas, and I just want to bring this up with you because the red heifers come out of Texas. And in, what was it? I think it's Greensboro or Greensburg, Texas. There was born a white buffalo years ago. It was it Yellow Medicine Dancing Boy? It was, what was his name? Lightning Medicine Cloud. Lightning Medicine Cloud. So I went to go see this Lightning Medicine Cloud and once held a ceremony out there with it. And then, like, within the year of this white medicine cloud being born, this white buffalo, which was very significant at the time to the Native Americans. And he was named, and I had just missed the naming ceremony, but R.B. Little Soldier, who was the owner of this calf, let me perform ceremony that evening after the naming ceremony. But he, within that year, the calf was murdered. Somebody murdered it. Like, skinned it and like threw its bones in a ditch. Like I still do not understand totally like why that happened, or like who would have done such a thing. And one day I returned to RB, like to just kind of talk to him about it all. Because like some people had claimed it might be him. And so I went back onto this land. And I remember like saying, okay, do you mind if I do a little ceremony at the grave of Lightning Medicine Cloud? And he said, no, go ahead. So I walked out there, and Lightning Medicine Cloud was buried with his mother, or next to his mother. His mother had just died recently, right before that. It just was a really weird thing. So anyway, I held a little ceremony for the sire, because at that time also there was another eclipse coming up that was going to be at Chaco Canyon. This was in 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. But anyway. So I had this ceremony out there, but on my way back, I'm walking back, and there's this group of cattle that are like sitting in a group, like they just like holed up all together. And so I kind of walked up to them, and the cattle separated. And through those cattle, one calf walked out, and it was a perfect red heifer. And it always stuck with me. And it walked up to me, like came out of that herd and just walked straight up to me. Like, there's something about me you're going to have to know in the future, Peter. And so I took that with me always. I always held that with me. So this red heifer thing that was started going on, and they were coming from Texas, and I had to go, and I had the ashes of my daughter, and they were thinking about, it's time that we're going to sacrifice the red heifer. And I thought, man, what's this all about? What's this all about? Why is this happening now? What is going on here? And why do I hold the ashes of this box, which is my daughter, who I call the bride of Christ, or the bride of Mashiach, the anointed one? And I need to give this away during this whole time, during this stressful time with Israel. And let's build a new, I think the Gazans, Hamas called the Golden Mosque, but it all had to do with those red heifers, some of them say. So anyway, the day of the eclipse, April 8th, came, and it dawned on me. It dawned on me what those ashes were all about, what the ashes of the bride of Christ are about, what the ashes of Hashem, or the ashes of Mashiach, are all about. And it dawned upon me that I am already anointed royal from the oils of my mother's womb. And so are we all. Just as I saw the bride of Christ, who I was to give away one day, in this fashion, not to any man, but to humanity itself. These ashes I were to have to give away, if you only knew how hard that was. But anyway, being my daughter, So anyway, the day came, and I was at Jediah Hill in Mill Creek of Hamilton County, Ohio, The only covered bridge there is. It's now the most sacred place in Hamilton County, Ohio. If you go there, really give some good reverence, you know. Give some good reverence, and good vibes will happen back to you. Wash in those waters. Cleanse yourself. For in those waters, I poured her before the waterfall. I poured my daughter. I poured the bride of Christ. I poured the bride of Mashiach into those waters. And then climbed down the waterfall rocks. And I placed myself, my own body under it as the first cleansing. And for all waters now, everywhere, you can use to cleanse anything. For water is life. And if that's the message that she was to bring us, the bride of Mashiach, then all waters are life. To finish up the revelations of the Christians, all water is life. All water. I've never caught that before, until then. I mean, I used to say it, when I enter a sweat lodge, they take the spool and they take that water and they pour it on those grandparents or those grandfathers, and they say, water is life. It goes into a vapor, steam. Water is life as it poured over me. Cleanse me, daughter. Cleanse me, O bride. For there will be no ashes as great as yours to cleanse us all. And the bride's ashes now, they have gone everywhere throughout the world. And anybody could pick up just a handful and cover yourself with it. For all waters are connected, and all waters will now cleanse. They have been made totally known, totally sacred, without the sacrifice of any beast. For those days have ended and shall not return. And that was the last eclipse. And it made that beautiful crescent sun. It was like a small ring with a beautiful diamond just spread out, shining. Like it was the eclipse of the bride. And here I was in the crosshairs of Nineveh. 2 Ninevehs in the crosshairs at a place called Jediah Hill, the place of the reaper. And that's how it ended. None of this was planned. Everything just flowed into it. So after that, what have I been doing now? It's going on a year. It's going on a year now. I'm trying to figure out Mashiach. I'm trying to figure out who it is. Do I think it is me? From what I've been through, I think, yeah, Mashiach. Here I am. To everybody else, I'm a P Mashiach. I'm a probable. There's a lot of them out there. A lot of people with a lot of stories. about what happens to them or what has gone on with them. And like I say, until the prophecies have passed, I mean, from out of left, excuse me, I got a stuffy nose. But anyway, out of anywhere could come a man or a woman. Although I think Mashiach is man. I think it's total man. I think it's total male energy. But it could be wrong. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Hashem gets the last word. You think you're right with Hashem, watch out. He's got something he plays with. It's called Shaitan, or the trickster. You're going to find out real quick what you know, or how certain you are. So here I am. I mean, what is my level of certainty on my own Mashiach? I'm 99% sure. I got to leave 1% for the trickster. And that's how I work it with everything. So I'm going to go to Israel. I'm going to Israel in 3 years, or at least I'm going to try to make it. That's where the pull is now. It's like, there's the next eclipse, Peter. There's where you got to go. Messiah of the ashes. There's where you got to go. I'll claim the ashes. I'll claim the Messiah of the ashes. Purim is going to last forever. In 2045, a book will be given. On August 2nd, 2045. Under the eclipse, there will be a book. And a calendar. And 1 year from that, will it all be accepted? And then the real work begins. And where it all goes, I don't know. But I know in 2099, on September 14th, Rosh Hashanah, that's when it will be 99.9% completed, with only a year to go. And that person born under that eclipse in the Chicago area may never know who he is, may never even care, for there's no reason for it anymore. And that all that has had to be fulfilled was fulfilled. We can all go on now in peace, in the brotherhood of man, with great wisdom. So, that's how I see it. So don't forget, I'll keep on going with these. I'll be working with other Mashiachs. I look around. I'm going to start working a little bit more with the Jewish rabbis. We'll see where it all goes. If anybody wants to contact me, you can. Tanka, TANKA, @live.com. I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody about what's going on. But anyway, I want to make it to Israel for that next Crescent Sun. It means a lot. It means a lot for me to be there. And I think it's going to be the final acknowledgement of the bride of the Mashiach. The bride of the Mashiach was only to be given away to everybody. Water is life. Use it well. God bless. And the time has come. Repent. Repent. Do good. Be kind. Cheers.